Let's talk about inflammation. Most of the inflammation that a person has actually is being caused by their own immune system. And we really have just two basic phases of inflammation. You have the acute phase, and then you have the chronic phase, where you have this incomplete healing. Inflammation is there to try to heal something, but if there's a constant stimulus, which I'm going to cover all of them today, you're not going to get to a point where you can actually resolve it. So I want to cover all of the different things that can occur, and then I'm going to cover all the things that you should do to resolve it. The number one selling drug in the world is an anti-inflammatory drug. So a lot of people have inflammation, but most autoimmune cases actually originate in the gut. I did a separate video on that. If you didn't see that, I will put that down below. But let's start with number one, gluten. Okay, that's in grains. Gluten really tears your stomach up. There's a morphine-like substance when you have this immune reaction. So in reality, it can numb the area so you don't feel it while the damage goes on. And I'm talking about damage in the gut lining to the point where you start getting leaky gut. And then we have particles of protein from your food that can invade through this immigration and bypass this immigration wall, go right into the lymphatic system, and boom, now we get this immune reaction. So gluten is behind so many different issues, okay? And then we also have food allergies, like intolerance to milk sugar, but that's not necessarily a true allergy. A true allergy involves a protein, like an allergy to casein, which is a protein in milk. So just by taking a person off milk, boy, all sorts of things can clear up. Number two, ultra-processed food ingredients. Now, yes, you have the artificial colorings and artificial flavorings and the preservatives and all that, and other chemicals, which may create a lot of irritation and problems, but not to the degree that these three ingredients do, that are made from industrial processed corn, okay? They go through a huge series of chemical reactions to the point where they no longer resemble the original corn. And then you put that in your body, and you're going to get a lot of what's called free radical damage. Envision just spinning it like a plate right now on my finger. It's spinning around, and we have these little weights on it, right? And if I took a couple weights off, it would be lopsided. It's not going to spin correctly. It's going to fall off and might just create some damage wherever that is. So that's what a free radical is. I don't want to get distracted. Synthetic sugar is bad. You've heard of cornstarch and maybe modified food starch, this maltodextrin. Highly reactive in the body, and so it behaves like a sugar, but it's classified as a starch. And then we have the deadly seed oils, which are, again, highly refined. Here you take this omega-6 unsaturated fat, which is very unstable, okay? And then you're going to put it under heat. What keeps it stable in that food? I mean, it's literally dead. People think, ultra-processed foods or junk foods are like the saturated fat in a burger, for example. Well, a lot of people do dirty keto, and they go to a fast food place. They eat the burger, not the bun, and they seem to do okay, It's the bun with the burger and the ketchup and the soda and the fries all together that creates the problem. And this is why if you're trying to heal the body and get rid of inflammation, you don't want to keep consuming these seed oils. You want to get on the saturated fats. Those are the ones that are stable. You want to cook with tallow. You want to use coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil. You don't want to use vegetable oils, especially when you use heat. All right, number three, viruses. A lot of people have certain inflammatory conditions that come and go. That's because a virus kind of can go in remission and out of remission. It could be triggered by your menstrual cycle. It could be triggered by stress. And so stress is a huge factor in this topic. So we're really dealing with this hormone called cortisol, because if you were to raise your stress, the cortisol comes up. Cortisol actually suppresses your immune system. So it kind of shuts it down. And it allows this pathogen, this virus, to come out and wreak havoc, to create problems. So stress puts your immune system to sleep. There's people that have major losses, and that can really create a huge problem with viruses come out of remission. And here they're taking all these vitamins, and they're eating really good foods. It's not working because of this darn stress situation that they're in. One thing that can help with this is vitamin D, because viruses also have a very sneaky strategy of blocking vitamin D in your body. But vitamin D is very important for viruses. Zinc is also important as well. All right, number 4, insulin resistance, okay? If you're doing a lot of snacks, frequent eating, and you're doing carbs, you can get insulin resistance. Most of the population has insulin resistance. When I used to have insulin resistance, boy, I had arthritis all up and down my spine, so much worse than it is now. I mean, I could barely feel it now, but so many people have told me once they get on keto and they do intermittent fasting, their inflammation goes away. I mean, you should just know about that. The next one is just not enough cortisol. Let's say, for example, you went through chronic stress for many years, or you had prednisone for a period of time. What happens, you develop what's called a cortisol resistance to the point where you don't have enough cortisol, and then the body becomes inflamed. And the remedy is vitamin D. Number 6, old injuries, and that is me. Okay, I had a lot of old injuries, and it really has to do with a lack of motion. If a joint doesn't move, or if you don't move, you're sedentary, you will develop inflammation. Arthritics need to keep moving. I do a tremendous amount of exercise for that reason. That's what really forces me to get out there. I do massive exercise, and when I do that, I feel so good, especially if I run up hills and things, because I can expand my chest, which opens up the back part of the thoracic spine, the neck. It just feels great. All right, next one, sludge in your bile ducts, a super concentrated cholesterol material, okay? What keeps it from becoming a stone is bile salts. And when it starts to get stuck in your bile ducts, it backs up into the liver and causes pain in the right shoulder or in your rhomboid back here or in your neck. That can be corrected by a healthy diet. Next one is iron, too much iron. Some people feel so much better when they give blood because they have a genetic problem that they retain too much iron, especially men. One thing about iron, it doesn't get out of the body very easily. So if you're consuming like supplements, you might not even connect the dots, but that can be the reason why you feel worse. One way to know too is if you maybe consume a lot of red meat and you just feel worse from that because there's a lot of iron. That's just one thing, or you eat liver and you feel worse. It's not very common. Most people feel better when they do red meat. All right, next one, I want to expand on this hypoxia situation. This is a lack of oxygen. If you have chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, in your lungs, you can have hypoxia. You're not getting the oxygen. Hypoxia causes inflammation because here you have this hemoglobin that carries oxygen, right? If you don't have enough iron or B12 to hold that oxygen, you become anemic, and that is a form of hypoxia. And then, of course, injuries create hypoxia. Cirrhosis of the liver, that would create a hypoxia situation, or even a clogged artery. Okay, there's a really good remedy. And I might as well just tell you right now, it's called tocotrienols. It's a type of vitamin E to help donate electrons to all the oxidation, and it's a good remedy for getting rid of the inflammation in the inside of the arteries. But tocotrienols are better than the tocopherols. So don't get the one that's mixed. Another thing, sleep apnea can cause hypoxia because you're not breathing as much, right? It can affect the kidney, it can affect the brain, it can affect a lot of things. All right, then the next one is uric acid. It's one of the main causes of high blood pressure, and it comes from consuming a lot of fructose, as in high fructose corn syrup. What can you do about this, right? You need to fix the microbes in the gut, the lactobacillus and the bifidobacteria. And you can find those too in kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, and just getting a probiotic. All right, the next thing, and this is really important, is to build up your endogenous antioxidants. The word endogenous means from within. So let's go through a couple things to do that. Fasting. Next one, cruciferous vegetables and salads. Exercise. Another thing is cold therapy. Next one on the list is vitamin D3, the most potent anti-inflammatory. Vitamin D can just put some order into your immune system. It can help regulate that immune system a lot better, and at least 10 to 20,000 IUs. All right, number 4, I already mentioned this, fasting. You should be doing regular intermittent fasting and periodic prolonged fasting if you have any inflammation. Number 5, low carb. This is called keto. Number 6, carnivore if you have gut inflammation. Really, red meat is probably the most healing thing that you can possibly eat. And I'm talking about grass-fed, grass-finished. Now, the next one on the list, I talked about that bile sludge. The antidote to that is something called TUDCA. Take 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, empty stomach. It will open up those ducts and allow the sludge to get through and give you a tremendous amount of relief, especially if you have bloating or this right shoulder pain. Next one is tocotrienols. I already talked about that. Great for anything related to the heart. I already mentioned cold therapy as well. That's number 9. And I also mentioned number 10, stretching and exercise. And 11, omega-3 fatty acids, fish oils. I recommend the cod liver oil because it has the vitamin A and the vitamin D. If you compare the seed oils, the omega-6, to the omega-3, the cod liver oil, the fish oil, the salmon, okay, or sardines, they both compete for the same enzyme. To get the omega-3, you need to stop the omega-6. You need omega-6, but you don't need as much. Now, since we talked a lot about cortisol, I have a list of every single possible thing, natural thing that you can do to help normalize cortisol. If you want that download, click the link down below right now and check it out. It's pretty cool.